1 o'clock today at the University of Michigan, the Hatcher Graduate Library, Gallery Room 100, the Institute for Research on Women and Gender at the school will hold a public event. The speakers will include the moderator, Susan Douglas from the U of M School of Communications, and three guests from the media. Anna Holmes, Washington Post, founder of Jezebel.com, Kathy Pollitt of The Nation, and Rebecca Traister of Salon.com. All could fairly be described as rather far to the left politically. And what will they be discussing? Well, on the U of M website, for quite a while in promoting this event, it had the crosshairs up there, the famous crosshairs for which Sarah Palin was so criticized for having on her website a long time ago, before the Gabby Gifford shooting. They had the crosshairs up there, and it said that they would discuss the Republican Party's war on women. Now, there is a policy at the University of Michigan, wisely instituted by President Coleman and other leaders at the school, because they're a nonprofit, that they cannot get involved in promoting one political party or any candidate over another. And so the question began being asked by those concerned about this and the university's status as a nonprofit, whether they were endangering that by holding a session that flatly stated that they would be discussing the Republican Party's war on women. So the website got changed. They added a question mark, but the panelists remained the same. And the comments, no doubt, those obviously of the individual panelists should be their own, will be skewed in one direction. There's not a moderate voice on this panel. Among those who raised concerns about the university's status as a nonprofit and how it might be endangered by this is a candidate for the Board of Regents, Rob Steele, Dr. Rob Steele, who's on the other end of our line. Dr. Steele, good morning.
Thanks, Frank, for bringing this attention to the most well-informed audience in all of radio at News Talk WJR 760.
Well, we're happy to do that. I'm concerned for the University of Michigan and its status as a nonprofit here, which it could be jeopardized by something like this. You don't want. There's a reason there are policies in place, aren't there, Dr. Steele?
Yeah, I think the critical thing here is, obviously, at the universities, we want the free exchange of ideas, and that's not really the issue here. The issue is taxpayer dollars being used for partisan politics. The vice president's office at the university about a month ago sent out very clear guidelines on the use of university and public resources in the election season. And the way this panel, or the way the title is, and sent out on their official emails, was The Republican War on Women as a declarative statement. And it leaves not anything to the imagination that it's taking the position there's a Republican war on women. And I think in an academic sense, had they said, is there a Republican war on women, ? Or gender issues in politics, a panel discussion, those sorts of things would have been fine. And especially, obviously, if you're going to have an exchange of ideas, you need an exchange. When all the panelists are on one side, there is no exchange of ideas.
Well, that was my next question: is where is the exchange of ideas here? This isn't an exchange of ideas. This is lobbying for one side's viewpoint. There's not a single panelist here who's going to promote the idea that women have been harmed by economic policies that have been promoted by Democrats. That's how you would bring the other side into a discussion like this.
Well, you're exactly right, Frank. And in fact, I've heard from many professional women who are very offended by this, and they're not wrapped up on some of the issues that will be controversial. They're upset that this panel would be pushing the notion that women want to expand the welfare state and want to be dependent on government rather than have their own economic opportunity or have their families have their own economic opportunity. And so, obviously the administration felt that the title was a problem, and I give credit to the administration. I don't believe the president's office or any higher level of the university saw this information before it was sent out. But that's exactly the problem, Frank, is the groups that sent this out, their mindset and the liberal culture is so imbued there that it didn't even occur to them that someone might look at this as partisan. And so that's the real issue, and that's why one of the reasons why I'm running for the University of Michigan Regent is that we need to change the culture to learning at these institutions of higher education and not propaganda and indoctrination. The taxpayers have funded the university for over 150 years. The alumni and administration have used that venture capital extremely well and created the second largest public endowment in the country, $7.8 billion endowment. And the kind of return on investment the state taxpayers, grandmas and grandpas and parents who see their kids leaving is not the return on investment for indoctrination. It's to get our best and brightest admitted to that university rather than having 40% coming from out of state.
I would love to see the University of Michigan really get to the forefront of being a school of journalistic excellence, where it promoted coverage of both sides of political issues and important issues. I really would love to see that. But when I see the department chair for communication studies serving as the moderator, wrote an article on the presidential campaign in which she said, "It's the stupid Republicans, stupid," and she's donated to President Obama, Democratic Party candidates, and related causes. It really indicates that the slant there is one way. And then you look at the other participants in this panel discussion today, and Katha Pollitt for The Nation wrote about the weird, heartless, misogynistic, ignorant things Republican men have said about women and pregnancy and rape in the last month. Said she's ashamed for my sex that any woman is still planning to vote for Romney and Ryan. Anna Holmes of the Washington Post wrote that Romney's body language and condescending tone toward women, including the moderator, showed a mindset of sexist policies. She was reading his body, showing sexist policies at a debate. And Rebecca Traister from Salon, the third candidate, says Republicans aren't just nostalgic for 1950s-style social barriers. They want to rebuild them. What kind of real open discussion can you have with panelists who are so one-sided?
Well, clearly you can't, and that's part of the problem that we have at these educational institutions, which, focus on these kinds of things, and that's by the nature of the people who are involved in some of these departments. And that's why it's critical that we have a board of regents who will at least pay attention and try to, the University of Michigan regents, according to the state constitution, have control over the university. They sign off on the budget. They set policy, they hire the executives, and help execute and guide the execution of those policies. And that's why we need regents who will look after the budget and make sure that our students are being educated and not propagandized. And I have my website, drrobsteeleforregent.com. People can see some of my great ideas having to do with the endowment, having to do with distribution requirements, and probably most important of all, the University of Michigan's budget is $6 billion, and $4 of the $6 billion budget is the health center and NIH science grants. And having had 20 years of faculty experience at the university in medical education and research, that's a critical point to be represented on the University of Michigan Regent Board. Presently, they have 7 attorneys and a social worker, not a single science degree elected to that board, which has 2/3 of every dollar being hardcore medicine, the thing that I do every single day.
All right. You kind of devolved into a political speech there, and I let you go because I know others on the station have done that for the other side. So I'll let you have your say, and let's stay away from the campaign speech. Okay, fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're running for the board. I know you want to be there, and I know you got great history with education and the like. We did get a response from the University of Michigan. We asked for somebody to appear on the program, and they were unable to provide us with anybody. I want to come back with Dr. Rob Steele here in a moment. We'll get the U of M's response to what's being said about this this panel discussion this afternoon about the Republican war on women, question mark now, added late. We mentioned we asked a representative of the University of Michigan to appear on this issue we're discussing about the forum that's being held today that could, if it continued the way it was planned at least, jeopardize the U of M standing as a nonprofit. We got a response to our inquiry about this, Dr. Steele, and I want to read it to you. It's pretty similar to what they have said in response to other requests for response. Rick Fitzgerald sent it, and it says the forum today is the second of a two-part academic symposium exploring the role of gender in the election. Monday's forum is not about election politics. It's about how the media is involved in politics. The moderator is chair of the Department of Communications and a well-known media analyst. It's open to the public. Regarding the title, I understand from the organizers that there are millions of uses of the phrase, the Republican war on women, in Google. The panelists will explore the climate in which such assertions as a war on women get made in the media. They will also look historically at how women's issues were presented in the 2008 election compared to the present election. IRWG said the question mark was added to avoid any misunderstanding about the purpose of the event. They want to make clear that a Republican war on women is not being assumed, nor is the purpose of the forum an examination of whether there is a Republican war on women. Now let me repeat the title of this forum. The Republican War on Women, question mark. And yet they say the purpose is not an examination of whether there's a Republican war on women. Your comment.
Well, it's clear at the beginning. The email sent out to the university faculty and community on the University of umich.edu servers, the subject line was the Republican War on Women. It was declarative. The poster was declarative, and they also used this whole crosshair thing, which, of course, was the big criticism in the past. But there's just no question that the way they put it out there, and it again demonstrates the culture that they didn't even think of that as being, that anybody would interpret that as a declarative war on women with a position already haven't taken. And that's why I say there's no problem with having this discussion from a media, intellectual, academic point of view. But then the title would be the media's role in gender issues in the current elective environment, or something like that. To have the declarative, the Republican war on women, presumes the position of both the panel and the university out under their logo with all these sponsoring departments. And I think the administration was not happy, and that's why it was changed. And so credit to the administration. I don't believe they were happy with this either.
Well, but even now you're getting the continuing argument that this forum is not even an examination of whether there is a Republican war on women, which begs the question, then why is the title of this Republican War on Women with a question mark? If that's not your purpose, why is that the title? I mean, it's I'm not a graduate of the University of Michigan, but I can understand that one.
Well, you hear a lot about diversity on campus, and what we don't hear much about is diversity of thought and ideas. In a higher institution of learning, an academic discussion, it requires the interchange of ideas, the examination of different points of view. It's clear this had no such thing. This was declarative. It was taking a position. It was out to the university's whole community. And we know that the professors and the staff at the university, in terms of employees and so forth, they voted 82 to 18 for Obama over McCain. And so it's plain and pure politics. It doesn't belong there. They could have avoided the whole thing by having a different title and putting Laura Ingraham on there, or Michelle Malkin, or Ann Coulter, or any one of the many professional women who I see every day in Ann Arbor who are offended by the notion that there's a war on women based on narrow social topics when their families are hurting, they have no jobs, and they have their own business or career they're trying to take care of. And it's just offensive in every way. It doesn't belong in the university, and they deserve the criticism on this one. And I'm glad the administration stepped up and made them change it.
Dr. Rob Steele, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you very much, Frank.
Take care, Rob Steele.